All right, so we've been seeing these three letters a lot last week and today as well. So we're going to briefly talk about what in the world CSS actually stands for and why it stands for those words. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Now, the last two words makes sense. It's styling, and we write them into these sheets called CSS documents. So for example, this is a style sheet, right? However, the confusing part is this first word, which you may or may not have heard of, cascading. So what in the world does cascading or cascade mean? So let's look that up really quickly in Google. So cascade definition. And we see here that cascade is a small waterfall or something, typically information or knowledge, that is passed on. Now, what does that mean when it comes to styling? What that essentially means is that when it comes to CSS and HTML, there can actually be multiple CSS rules that end up hitting, or you can imagine waterfalling down to these HTML elements. So for example, I could actually have another H1 rule written out here and say that the color is actually going to be blue. So now I have this H1 rule and this H1 rule both cascading or hitting these H1 elements. So at a very, very basic level for now, you can just understand that cascading means that the last rule to be written on a CSS sheet is going to be the rule that actually is applied to the element. So like, for example, in this case, the color is no longer just green because the last CSS rule that was declared here was that it's actually going to be blue. That's just a very basic explanation of what cascading means in CSS. We're going to see that it gets a little bit more complicated than that in the next section.